I've been on holiday for the past few weeks and I must say, what a market. We've seen the biggest market crash ever on altcoins where they dropped by 90%, and then we are going to see the lowest confidence ever in the markets as well. And that in the 4th year of the altcoin cycle, we should be peaking right now, but we are actually at the bottom. So in this video, we're going to talk about what I'm going to do with the altcoin portfolio, what you should do, what we are expecting, and what has happened. So let's get started with this update. Before we continue with this update, I would like to ask you for a favor, which is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. We are back in the studio after a few weeks of holidays, and we are going to be traveling a lot to shoot podcasts, to be at events, to meet partners and all those things. And in that case, if you want to stay updated on the altcoin portfolio, in the previous weeks, I've been making updates on Instagram. I've been making short videos with basically news and updates on the portfolio on the moment that you need it, because we can't do that on YouTube. We can provide in-depth content on YouTube, but if you want to have actual updates on the portfolio, make sure to go to Instagram, where I've been making those updates, especially during the crashes that we had. And we are having a very busy schedule going into the next period, in the sense that during this shooting, we're doing this on Monday the 20th. We are about to leave to London after one day in Amsterdam. We're going to go to Zebu Live to shoot 3 podcasts. And then we will be here for a week. And then we're going to SmartCon and some more conferences. So make sure to follow me on Instagram. Also, if we talk about the altcoin portfolio, I remember that I was saying during the holiday, I was staying in Lombok, that I got bored by a little bit. Usually I'm not really taking much of holidays. I still continue to trade. We need to do that. But on a nice Friday, the 10th of October, I was enjoying the holidays in a villa in Kuta, Lombok, which, if I would give an advice of places to go, Kuta and Lombok is amazing. I felt uncomfortable while going to bed, and when I woke up at like 6 a.m. in the morning, I saw a lot of missed calls of friends that are also active in the markets. And the first thing that I do when I wake up that nervous is checking the altcoin portfolio or checking the markets. And the first thing I saw was stable being down 65%. And I was like, fuck, my portfolio is getting liquidated again. The day trading portfolio. So I woke up, checked the charts, went to the computer. I didn't know what was happening. It doesn't really matter at that point in time to understand what is happening. It's more important to see where everything is standing and how the portfolio is actually doing. And I recall from my previous periods where this has been happening, for instance, COVID. During that night, one of my best friends called me to actually buy more Bitcoin during the dip. Other occasions like FTX, I got liquidated on my portfolio. And right now, during this period of time, we had the best day ever in terms of returns. So my day trading portfolio was down 15%. But in terms of unrealized gains, it was nearly 30%. So in the days after we actually traded it back, the fund was doing great, as the actual day in terms of volatility trading has yielded us by 6 to 8% on one single day. So it was quite hectic, and it remained relatively hectic. But this time, although we've seen 19 billion in terms of liquidations taking place on the markets, I think the key lesson is that I've learned not to trade leverage. The only reason to trade leverage is to de-risk your positions or to hedge your positions and not to add anything. In terms of volatility, the altcoins have a very high volatility, so you don't need to use leverage in order to have a return. You just need to compound those returns. So that went well. And then the altcoin portfolio has been going down massively. So that's the prime question now, is what is the current status of the altcoin portfolio? Well, if we look at it, it's currently at $46,000. which is close towards the lowest point ever on the altcoin portfolio. We started with 110k and it's currently worth 46, which is definitely not what we were expecting to see happening at this point in time. And the question is then, what should we do from this standpoint? And what is the current market circumstance? Well, there's a great chart that has been provided by Luke Martin, one of the OGs in the space. He's called Venture Coinist. He provides a chart where you can see the Bitcoin price, which is the blue line, and then the green dots, which is the all-time high, and then the drawdown periods of a bucket of coins. If you have the top 50 in your portfolio, then the drawdown compared to the all-time high is pretty much 85% right now. But more importantly, the current drawdown is lower or heavier, not lower, but the value is lower. The drawdown is heavier than during the FTX collapse. So the prices of altcoins right now are lower compared to the FTX collapse back in 2022. That says a lot about the current status of the markets, and it also says a lot about the current momentum and sentiment in the market. Retail is not here. Retail is currently buying gold in lines in Australia, wherever they are. But it shows that there has been such a big monumental event taking place in the markets that has destroyed the entire momentum. And there's only one occasion that I recall that is comparable to this, which is the COVID-19 crash. And that's why you can see the Chainlink chart. Chainlink collapsed from $4 to $1.20 in one single night, which is comparable to the price action that we have seen in the previous collapse, because in the previous collapse, Chainlink went from $22 to $6. So depending on which altcoin you have, during that period in 2020, Chainlink crashed even more. But if you look at things like Cosmos or whatever altcoin there is, some of them went down 95% during the collapse of Friday, the 10th of October. And they destroy all the leverage on the downside or on the long side. And then it takes a lot of time to actually get back towards the levels that they used to be. But if we look at the current price action, it's not too bad as we can see that. Some altcoins have been going back all the way again. For instance, Tau is already trading on higher levels. And what we need to understand is that this entire collapse of the altcoin markets has nothing to do with the altcoins itself. It has been a flawed system that there were 3 pairs going to be updated in the Binance ecosystem or on the Binance exchange. And during the window that it was getting clear that those were updated in terms of pricing, some, market participants made use of that exploit and actually made a ton of money out of that entire crash and therefore cascading the prices downwards even more. So as a result of that case, you could argue that most of the altcoins that have a fundamental thesis are extremely undervalued at this point. And if we do understand that COVID-19 crash, the prices have never come back, or they never came back to the levels that we've seen during that crash. So yes, it is disastrous. Yes, it's the biggest crash ever, but it might be the biggest financial opportunity ever as well. We recently hosted our very first crypto masterclass with OKX and it was a huge success. We had over 100 people joining us in Amsterdam for me to talk 1 hour about crypto and trading, an AMA, and we had drinks and a chat at the end of the night. We had people driving in from Germany and we had people flying in from the UK. And to be honest, this was something that I really wanted to do for years. And I think that we're going to be doing more of those events in the future. And if you want to be part of those events and want to know it the first, make sure to sign up through OKX in the link in the description beneath. And then you'll be the first to receive updates on all of the upcoming events. During periods of financial stress, the markets provide the best financial opportunities. That is always how it is, and that's always how easy it is in hindsight. But during the exact moment, it is very difficult to actually realize that you should be taking that trade or you should be taking that investment. And if we look at it from a very neutral and realistic view, at this point in time, we need retail to be buying altcoins. That's usually a top call. But if we check the internet, we can see the lines that are buying gold at this point. So in the commodity markets, we are currently peaking in terms of euphoria. Sure, we can go to 5K for gold, we can go to 6K perhaps, but in the short term, that's getting peaked quite heavily at this point. And the higher gold goes, the higher Bitcoin usually will go, and the higher the rest of the markets are going to go. Because at some point in time, the ones that are buying gold will shift over towards crypto. And I think that we're quite close to that actual moment in the markets. And if we look at the data, and if we look at Chainlink, for instance, this is the chart that we saw in 2020. Chainlink was moving around $4 back in the day, and it collapsed all the way towards $1.20. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time before the markets are going to be back into their normal neutral state. Especially if there's a shock, then it's like going back and forth in terms of heaviness. So the markets are bouncing back up swiftly because of illiquid books. Then it needs to retest some orders. People are taking profits on those bounces. And that's where you get those balances coming back into play. That's why we have seen this price action taking place here too. And it took approximately 4 months before we started to break to the upside. If we go to watch Chainlink in the terms of the current price action, then we are going to be seeing that it's actually acting in a very strong way. So we have seen this big wick down towards $6, but all in all, we are already at $19. We have seen this crash. We bounced back up to $20. We found ourselves our resistance point there. So day traders are taking profits. We retest the lows again at $15 and we're starting to attack the highs again. So this shock is very heavy, and actually max pain is for the markets to go up instead of down because everyone is out already. We retested $15 and now we're starting to grind back up. And I think that in the coming 2 to 4 weeks, we will be seeing that breakout upwards on most of the altcoins. We will be seeing Bitcoin starting to break to the upside again. And then that would result into Ethereum going into a new all-time high. But if we look at Bitcoin as well, the COVID-19 crash here resulted into Bitcoin going to 3.5K. 1 year later, Bitcoin was around $50,000 and printed new all-time highs. So in hindsight, these crashes are the best opportunities to be buying into it. But if you log in onto social media, what you will be seeing is that there's a lot of fear and anger of people that have been liquidated or that have been losing a lot of value in their altcoin portfolios. If you are liquidated, it has been happening multiple times to myself as well. It's a terrible feeling to lose everything in your portfolio. I've seen the stories of people losing their lives or committing suicide. That's terrifying to read. If you need help, make sure to send me a message on Instagram or Twitter DM. I'm here to help if you want. Get some mental support. But ultimately, if you're liquidated, rebuild it again because you can make it back as fast as possible if you have a strict risk management plan. And the only way of learning and improving that is by making mistakes. So see it as a big lesson. And I think that there's a lot of gains to be made out of that. I had to do it multiple times before I actually was able to build a strategy that is very useful and that is actually sustainable for me. But if we look at the entire market structure, then tech dev is still making the content that I think is very valuable, which is we are having the business cycle signal, which is currently at the lowest valuation ever since the existence of the crypto markets. While in the meantime, Bitcoin has been running towards 110K. So the impact of the ETF is more positive than expected. Otherwise, Bitcoin would be at around 40 to 50K. And I think that we're on the edge of making that actual switch where Bitcoin is going to have that parabolic move following gold, and then the altcoins start to turn into some more momentum. And especially if you think about the entire case of China and gold in itself, why is gold running? Well, China is currently buying up gold probably for the fight against the US, or probably for the valuation of their own currency, they have been stocking up gold in the previous period sustainably. And I will be making some more content on this topic because ultimately China is using gold for their own currency, and the US is going to be using crypto and stablecoins to fight these two out. And we don't know which one is going to last and which one is going to win. But all we do know is that the money that has been made in gold will likely move towards Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin is going to make or move upwards, that is going to provide the upwards returns on the altcoins. So if we look at my tweet that I've posted the other day, what is next to happen? Alt season is around the corner, and I think that it's still going to happen. We need to erase the entire 4-year cycle, as this cycle is completely different. We need Bitcoin to be bottoming out, which is already happening. We need Bitcoin to be trending upwards, and we need to break 112K. At this moment, it's not breaking it yet, but it's starting to show strength. And from there, we want to see ETH that starts to break out towards a new all-time high. It's actually showing more strength than Bitcoin, and that will bring back the confidence, and then altcoins are likely going to outperform. And there are some altcoins that are likely going to do better than others. For instance, Tao is having the halving in December. But the first 5 to 10x for altcoins will happen when Bitcoin breaks that 112K, and will happen when Ethereum starts to make a run towards a new all-time high, because then the people that are eager to buy gold will switch back into crypto, and we can all have that big run again. So yes, it's a massive crash, but it's also a massive financial opportunity. The biggest lesson that I've learned over the years is to not trade with leverage. I would still advise people to not trade leverage at all. Crypto is volatile enough, and it's not about getting liquidated, losing it all, and not being able to make it back again. It is all about staying in the game, and it's all about having a lot of patience, because ultimately you can compound your returns. If you have an altcoin that is in your portfolio and that's going to give you a big return in the coming period, just take the profits and put it into an asset that is yielding you 10% per year, and you'll be fine. There is a short window of maximum financial opportunity on those altcoins where risk on is happening, which is now going to be the period, and it's not always there. So use the altcoins to make that return, and then stack sats, stack gold, stack real estate, or whatever you want, and stay calm on the trading that you do, because you don't need leverage, you don't need to risk more, you need to risk less. And I think that we are far from done with the cycle. I think that the maximum pain scenario is that we're going to go up, and that's what we're going to be continuing to post on this YouTube channel. And on Sunday, we will be making a new altcoin portfolio update. So stay tuned, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you again on Sunday.